Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Today we're going to be talking about Dan James. Now, in my unpopular opinion / hot takes video the other day, Joe mentioned that it was a bit of a hot take to say that Daniel James is one of our best wingers and will be one of our most important wingers still come the end of the season. And I think he's right. There's a lot of people who underrate Dan James still, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get into it though, make sure you hit that big red button down below. But Dan James, I believe, is one of our most important players and somebody who is an incredible player for the Championship level. He's been up to the Premier League. He didn't make the most amazing impact in the Premier League, but he is a great Championship player. We're going to talk a little bit about why I like him, why I think he's good, and then we're going to have a little dive into some of his statistics over the last 365 days. Now, when we look at him in the eye test, first of all, he's absolutely rapid. Sometimes this can detract from what people think about him because they think, oh, he's just a pace merchant. He can just run really quickly. Bit of a roadrunner, headless chicken style thing. I don't agree with that. I think he's very quick, yes, of course. But he is somebody who is dynamic on the ball. He's not the best in terms of dribbling past people, but what he does know how to do is give the ball away at the right time, if you get what I mean, to a teammate, not to an opposition player. He knows when to pass. A lot of players struggle with that. Even Jorginho struggled with that last season and the first game of this season, however long he stayed with us. He would take on a load of players and then lose the ball, and it'd be like, you just got to have that final pass to know when to drop the ball off. And I think Dan James knows when to do that. He knows, okay, I'm not going to be able to get past this guy. I'm going to pass the ball and I'm going to move and let the ball do the talking rather than his feet. So I think he's got that kind of, and this is something that's developed over the last couple of years, I think. He didn't think he used to have this, but he used to be able to kind of look, don't know where to go, lose the ball. But I think now he's kind of like a little bit calmer, a little bit more mature in his football, and he'll look back and go, okay, there's a passing option there. I'm now going to move and cut inside with those kind of scripted attacking patterns that Daniel Farke likes him to do. So I think that's a good thing. I also think he's added a lot to his game in terms of his crossing, because it used to be that he would get to the byline and just whip a ball into the box with his right foot, and basically it was quite telegraphed. Defenders would know how to defend against that. They would come forward, they would shape up their body to force him down the line, and then they would know that he would put, most of the time, a pretty poor cross into the box. Now, though, his right-footed crossing has improved massively. I think his delivery is one of his actual best characteristics now. His delivery into the box from crosses is really good on his right foot. But what he's also added to his game, which I really like, is an ability to cut back and whip the ball in a bit of an in-swinger with his left foot, which is something that I didn't really think I would see him add to his game, but he's certainly done it. You see it a lot more now of him looking like he's going to go down the line. He might cut back a bit, and if there's no options for a short pass or to recycle a possession and maybe go out the other side, he will put the ball into the box with his left foot. He'll cross it in, and I think that's actually a really a good characteristic. The other thing that I like to see from Dan James is when he arrives late into the box or makes those runs in behind from out to in for the ball to come over the top for him. He doesn't necessarily do it with his dribbling, but he does it with his receptions of the ball, and we'll go into that statistically because that bears out in the statistics as well. But his ability to finish has gone up massively. Last season, of course, scoring, let's have a little look. Last season, I think he scored 13 goals and got 7 assists, which is his highest contribution ever in a season. He's already got 1 goal this season, but last season, 20 goals and assists in 40 games, of which he only started 28 because of injuries and Nonto coming in for him at certain points. So in 28 starts, he got 20 goal contributions, including 13 goals and 7 assists. It's really good numbers when we talk about how influential some of the players that we've lost have been, like your Crescencio Somervilles, like your Jorginho Rutes. When you look at Dan James, he's way up there in terms of contributions to the team and contributions to winning games of football. So Dan James is way up there. Let's have a little look then into his actual statistics now. I've just had to pop myself in this tiny little bit in the middle, so if you have to squint to see me, I am still here. I'm in this tiny little portion of screen. But let's have a look at his statistics then. Those are things that you've come to see. So when we have a look at his actual versus attacking midfielders and wingers over the last 365 days, and that's also compared to men's next 14 competitions. So that is leagues like MLS, it's leagues like the French League, it's leagues like the Dutch League, the Belgian League, the Portuguese League, and the second division in Spain. So a decent standard to compare against. This is where he places. So, and you can see as well here on the right hand side is this chart, which is a little plugin actually, FB Charts. If you go to fbcharts.com and add it as a little plugin, you can then, whenever you go on FBref, it gives you a visual representation of it there, and you can download them and stuff as well. So it's quite useful to have. So, and we look at this compared to this as well. Shot creating actions in the 54th percentile. So 3.67 per 90. He's not massively involved in creating chances. It's about average for wingers. It's about average. But in terms of getting assists, 0.22 per 90 puts him in the 69th percentile. So that's actually really decent, getting himself assists when realistically he's not creating that many chances. So people are being quite clinical with Dan James's passes. So therefore, maybe that skews it slightly to make him look a little bit better. But nevertheless, he's got 7 assists and you can't scoff at the facts. Goals. Last season, of course, when I said he scored 13 goals. Before we go into that, actually, shot creating actions 54th percentile, goal creating actions 73rd percentile. So you can see that obviously people are being clinical with his chances. Non-penalty goals, 98th percentile, 0.51 per 90, which is, like I said, he's scoring 1 every other game. So, look, really, really good from Dan James last season, scoring an absolute hatful of goals. He's taking more shots now than he used to as well. 2.83 per 90 puts him in the 82nd percentile. So he's way up there in terms of the amount of shots he's actually taking. So a little bit of confidence in him, having shots from distance, inside, outside the box. Goals per shot as well. This is kind of shows you his clinicality. So 94th percentile for goals per shot. So look, he's way up there in terms of being clinical now, which is something you would never have said about Dan James a few years ago. Shots on target 60%, not that bad. It's not that bad. That sort of 60th percentile. That puts him pretty high up there in terms of that, above average. Now, when we look at possession here, this is one of the things I like to look at. Progressive passes received. So progressive passes received, if we just hover it over here, there you go. Completed passes that remove the ball towards the opponent's goal line at least 10 yards from its furthest point in the last 6 passes, or any completed pass into the penalty area. Basically, it passes forward to somebody who's waiting in the final third to receive it. Dan James in the 92nd percentile, receiving 11.06 passes per 90. He's up there asking for the ball, wanting to make things happen all the time. So that's really good from him. Something I really like to see. Passes into the penalty area as well. That comes down to his crossing and things, carries into the penalty area. He's pretty filled out in all these statistics. If you were to find another winger that's this filled out in all of these statistics on this kind of pie chart thing here, they'd cost you a lot of money. Now, Dan James did cost us a lot of money. He did cost us a lot of money, but we've paid him off now, I think. He's been out on loan for a year. He's been messed around, but finally, this is what happens when you put him out on the right wing. When you actually put him in his position rather than up front. Now, of course, I'm not slagging off Bielsa here. Needs must. We didn't have any strikers fit, so Dan James was kind of the only option, really. But when we consider that Dan James has now had a full season playing on the right wing and played like that, I think, yeah, we always saw that this Dan James was here because Bielsa obviously wanted him when he was at Swansea. We never got that one across the line and eventually got him in from Scum. And he's finally had a full season, 4 leads out on the right wing. And I think he's shown how good of a player he is when he plays in his actual position. So long may it continue. He's already scored a goal this year. I think he's been playing really well. I think somebody who's been signed recently, like Ramazani, Solomon, any of those wingers, would have to have a very hard job getting him out of the team if he didn't pick up that knock. So he is injured a little bit at the moment. And maybe that's something you could level against him. He's a little bit injury prone. But overall, I think Dan James has been fantastic for us, and I'm much, much looking forward to this season's Dan James. Thanks for watching Leeds Let me know what you think of Dan James down in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that big red button, and I'll see you in the next one.